is about keeping women healthy, so we're finding out the 5 biggest health crises facing women right now from the author of Women's Health for Life, Dr. Donica Moore. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you.
It's been too long.
I know. It's great to be back.
Thanks for caring so much about us. So we have some things we want to get to. We want to start with weight management for women. So why is this more of a crisis for women?
Absolutely. We have about 30% of all adult women are obese. And obese means more than 20% over what you should weigh or what your body mass index should be. And then we have an additional 34% of adults.
Did you say?
30% are obese, and then an additional 34% are significantly overweight.
So if you're supposed to weigh 120 and you weigh 156, you're considered obese.
Exactly. And so the numbers don't always play out, but it depends on who said you were supposed to be 126. Right. That might be a little too low for your age, height, etc. But the crisis is more than I can't fit into my jeans. The crisis is this increases our risk for many serious diseases, including heart disease, which is the #1 killer of women and men. It increases our risk for certain cancers, like breast cancer, endometrial cancer, the cancer of the lining of the womb, and colon cancer.
We're at our wit's end trying to correct it. What are we supposed to do, and how much exercise do we actually have to have?
Well, I think that's great questions. Let's take them one at a time.
Right.
The first thing is we've heard so much about diet and exercise, people think it's one word and they've tuned it out. A good friend of mine made up another word, excuses. These are all the excuses we make up not to exercise. But if I can tell you one thing, the healthy nutrition and exercise stuff really works. Now, I want people to stop talking about diets, though. Diet is a 4-letter word that begins with D-I-E. I want people to start talking about live-its. All right, make healthy choices, make better choices. We have the information. Let's do it.
It still goes back to diet, I think, though, in some ways.
You can't just eat anything you want.
A lot of my girlfriends are having a problem with the sleep thing. So why is that such a crisis, you know, the sleep deprivation?
Well, we talk about the economic deficit. We all have a sleep deficit, and you can't make that up by cramming it in on the weekends. All right, sleep is as important to overall good health as diet and nutrition. You need 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
7
to 9 a night.
4.5.
All right, and that's what most people say, and you're tired.
Well,
now, of course, if you're tired, that increases moodiness and irritability.
Before I go to bed, I do my tweeting at night, and I watch a little bit of TV. And
sleeping is probably more important to you than tweeting.
How do you do the healthy sleeping? That's what I try.
Well, you know, first of all, we have to decide, is it because you're tweeting or do you have insomnia? 17 million Americans have insomnia, which is characterized by difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, so waking up in the night, waking up too early in the morning, or not feeling refreshed when you wake up.
Are you supposed to take pills for that?
Well, I want people to sleep smart. And if they need to take pills, they should talk to their doctor before going to the drugstore and self-medicating with, 17 things on the shelf.
But what about the odd person like myself who sleeps 4 hours and is fine?
Well, if I took you to a sleep lab, though, we would probably find that your reaction time is decreased, that your reflexes...
Chase me and find out. Scare me and watch me rock.
And so long as you're not driving, it's not going to affect me. But, of course, the risk of automobile accidents is the biggest serious health risk we run from being sleep deprived.
Well, of course, I have a driver, darling.
Now, she didn't answer the first question I asked, which is how much exact exercise do we have to have every week?
So the American Heart Association says 30 minutes, 5 days a week for cardiac health. Of course, the punchline is we each have different health baselines. We each have different health needs. What you need to stay healthy is different than what you may need to get healthy if you're 150 pounds overweight. All right, so this is why it's important to talk to your doctor.
Osteo?
For preventing osteoporosis, of course. The other thing is that we know that 30 minutes a day can be 10 minutes 3 times a day.
Okay, so we got to move now a little bit quickly through these. Now, heart disease. This is a big crisis for women, but I thought it was like the #1 killer.
It's the #1 killer of women. The good news about heart disease, and men.
Oh, okay.
But we're talking about women. Yes. The good news about heart disease is that even though you have risk factors that you may not be able to change, like your age, I know you're always trying to change that. There are other things. 80%, up to 80% of your risk factors for heart disease can be improved or reduced with lifestyle and behavioral changes.
That's good news.
All right, so that's the don't smoke, reduce the alcohol, get off the couch, and do the exercise.
But if you don't die of heart disease, what are you going to die from? You have to die from something. Well, what are you going to die from?
And, of course, the good news about cancer is that, ironically, more people are dying of cancer. 250,000 women are going to die of cancer this year. There's more than 200 different types of cancers. We're always talking about breast cancer. But one of the reasons we're dying more of cancer and heart disease is because we are less less likely to die of other things in our younger years, which is a good thing. With cancer also, lots of things we can do to reduce our risk. Early detection, early diagnosis, the most important thing.
What about the fifth health crisis is mental health?
Mental health is a huge problem. We always leave that to the end.
I feel like I'm crazy all the time.
The good news is, and crazy is not actually a real diagnosis, but when we're talking about women, we're talking, although we all know people who we make that diagnosis in, we're talking about depression and anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders are actually number one. The peak incidence, peak age of depression, average age is 44. So we always think depression increases as you get older, but it's that sandwich generation of women who are in crunch time. Yes, and I wish I had $1 for every doctor who patted somebody in the head and said, of course you're depressed, your husband's having an affair, or of course you're depressed, you have cancer, and then didn't treat it. Just because we're depressed for a reason doesn't mean we can't treat it. And the treatment is talk therapy as well. It's not always, here, take this pill. It's talk therapy and medical therapy as needed.
Thank you, doctor. We're always glad to have you here. Everyone in our audience with more information is going to go home with a copy of Dr. Moore's book.